Today, we're diving into the extraordinary story of Malala Yousafzai. She's a young woman whose very personal fight for an education didn't just change her own life, it literally sparked a global movement. It's an incredible look at how one single voice, really armed with nothing but conviction, can stand up to extremism and champion a right we should all have, the right to learn.
And this quote, it's really the heart of everything. It's such a simple idea, right? But it's also this incredibly profound belief in the power of education to transform everything. And that's the core idea we're going to unpack today.
So that really begs the question. I mean, how does that even happen? How can one voice, a schoolgirl's voice no less, possibly stand up to an armed, oppressive regime? Well, to understand that, we have to go back to where it all started.
Okay, so our story begins in Pakistan's Swat Valley. And you have to picture this place, because it's the crucible where Malala's activism was really forged. It was a beautiful place that went through a dramatic and, frankly, a very violent transformation.
I mean, the contrast here is just night and day. Before the Taliban Pakistan, or TTP, showed up, the Swat Valley was this beautiful tourist destination. Society was relatively liberal, so much so that Malala's father even ran a school for girls. But under the TTP, it became a battleground. Freedom was replaced by fear, and learning was replaced by a systematic war on education aimed specifically at girls.
So who exactly were the TTP? It's really important to get this. They were an extremist militant group, and their entire goal was to grab power by forcing this rigid and deeply misogynistic ideology on everyone, an ideology that was completely against the rights and freedoms of the people who actually lived there. And on the ground, what that actually looked like was this. Individual freedoms, gone. Women were basically pushed out of public life, relegated to the home. And most critically for our story, teachers were threatened, schools were physically destroyed, and girls were explicitly and violently forbidden from getting an education. This wasn't just some policy change. It was a deliberate strategy to control the future. So, in this climate of total fear and suppression, a new voice of resistance started to emerge. And it didn't come from a weapon. It came from a pen. At just 11 years old, think about that, 11, Malala started writing a blog for the BBC. She used a fake name, of course, to protect herself, but she gave this intimate, completely unfiltered account of what it was like to be a girl living under Taliban rule. This wasn't just a diary, you guys. It was a strategic act of witness. It was a way to tell the world what was really happening when no one else could. And that's the thing. Her blog wasn't just about her story. She became this conduit for the fears and the hopes of thousands of other girls who had been totally and completely silenced. She gave them a voice when theirs had been stolen by fear. Now, here's what she did that was so brilliant. She took this local issue, the closing of her school in the Swat Valley, and she framed it for what it truly was, a fundamental violation of human rights. And that reframing, that was absolutely key to getting the world's attention and turning her local struggle into a global cause. But as her voice got louder, the danger got more intense. The TTP decided they had to shut her up for good. And that led to the pivotal, horrifying moment that would, against all odds, change everything. And the escalation happened so fast. In 2009, she's blogging, but anonymously. Before the year is even over, her identity is revealed, and her profile just skyrockets. And then, by October 2012, her voice had become so powerful, so threatening to the Taliban, that they tried to murder her, boarding her school bus and shooting her. They failed. That assassination attempt was supposed to be the end, a final, brutal full stop. But in one of the most profound twists of irony you can imagine, the one act designed to extinguish her voice ended up amplifying it on a scale they could never, ever have imagined. And that amplification was immediate, and it was global. The attack set off this explosion of media attention. Suddenly, there was widespread international condemnation of the Taliban and this huge surge in support for girls' education. The bullet had backfired in the most spectacular way possible. So after her recovery, Malala's activism enters this whole new phase. It gets more strategic. Her personal story, her testimony, evolves into this structured global organization with a really clear mission. She and her father created the Malala Fund. And this was such a crucial step because it's what transformed her from being a symbol of resistance into an actual engine for real, tangible change around the world. And the fund's strategy is just so clear and so smart.
It's got this three-pronged approach. First, they invest in local activists on the ground, the people who know the challenges best. Second, they advocate for big policy changes to tear down the systemic barriers. And third, they continue to amplify girls' own stories, making sure this issue stays in the global spotlight.
And what is all this hard work for? Well, it all boils down to this one single number, 12. 12 years of free, safe, quality education. That is the simple, ambitious, and totally non-negotiable goal for every single girl on this planet.
So, why does this one story matter so much to all of us? Well, because the fight for girls' education isn't just about girls. It's really about creating a better, safer, more prosperous world for absolutely everyone. I mean, just look at this ripple effect. The data on this is crystal clear. When you educate girls, child mortality rates go down, maternal health gets better, economies actually grow, you see more civic participation, and societies literally become more peaceful. And these aren't just feel-good opinions, these are hard, evidence-backed facts.
You know, there's actually an economic framework for this. It's called human capital theory. And all it really says is that investing in people through education and health is the most direct path to creating a wealthy, productive society for everybody. So when you invest in one girl's education, you are really investing in the future health and wealth of her entire community.
So at the end of the day, if you take one thing away from her incredible journey, it's this. Education is not a luxury. It's not a privilege. It is the absolute fundamental prerequisite for all human progress. Period. Her legacy is this constant, powerful reminder that when we fight for a classroom, we're actually fighting for something so much bigger. We're fighting for human dignity, for equality, and for a brighter future for every single one of us. And that leaves us with one final and really vital question. We've seen how education is this powerful catalyst for peace and progress. So what's the real cost of ignoring it? What potential is lost, not just for that one girl, but for all of us? Every single time a girl is denied her chance to learn.